All right, so having talked about list, we're gonna move on and look a little more in depth into strings. Now, one thing um, before we talk about strings is that uh, there's this, so far at least in all the examples that I have written, I put a string literal or I surround the string literal with double quotes. Okay, but for but for Python, it really doesn't care if we use double quotes or single quotes. So if I come to here, it said I make a string with double quotes. I print it out, and then I put the same string but in single quotes to Python. Both are exactly the same. It does not matter. Well, then you ask, is there a reason to choose one over the other? Well, I typically use double quotes because I can easily say something like, that's great, right? If I want to type the same thing inside single quote, well, it won't work because that's great. The apostrophe here is a single quote. So Python look at this and it's like, hey, I have a open quote and I see another quote, so that must be the end quote. So this is the end of the string literal, and then all these things out here, Python consider them junk. Okay, so and because apostrophe is used so much in the English language, so I usually use double quotes, so I can easily just put an apostrophe inside the string. Now, if you want to use double quote, single quote, then what do you do in this case? Well, what you do in this case is you escape the apostrophe. Okay, you're telling Python this um, apostrophe does not mean that it's ending the the single quote. Okay, so this is this is just it's called escaping a single quote or an apostrophe. Okay, so now these two strings are equivalent again. So um, uh, the Python style guide doesn't really recommend one way or the other. Use whatever you are comfortable with. Again, I like to use double quote, but I know um, typing double quote meaning you have to use your little pinky to hold down the shift, which will give you pinky a lot of exercises, physical exercises. So if you like that, that's great. But if you don't, use single quote, it's fine. Okay, so that's what the slide says. And with that out of the way, um, I don't know if you saw this coming, but if you think about it, strings, it's in many ways really like a list, and it's a list of just characters, right? Um, now, um, you have to realize that each character is itself a string that has length 1, right? So, for example, the A character is just another string, but it has a single character, so the length is 1. Again, for those of you who know C++ or Java or other languages, um, you can extract a single character out of a string, but that character is a different type. It's called a character type, right? It char in both C++ and Java. But if you extract a single character out from a string in Python, the type of that character is still a string. There's no character type in Python. All right, so given what we just said, that string is just kind of like a list, you would expect that we should be able to apply most of the list operations on strings. So um, this is your turn to actually go through all the things that we just talked about in list and try all of those operations. So this is getting a length, right? Getting a particular character in and at a particular index, right? Getting a slice of the string, do a string concatenation, do a string multiplication, and then do a string unpacking, and then do a modifying a single character in a string. All right, so pause the video, try all of these things. Maybe try it manually first. See, see what you should expect, and then actually run this code in the Python interpreter and verify that they do what you expect them to do. Okay, so I hope you've run this code, and if you did, at the end, you would have run into this one exception. So let me see, do I have this? Yes, I do. All right, so I'm gonna revert this back to my example. All right, I'm gonna run all of these. And mostly it's what you expect, even up until the last line, which I unpack the string short into 5 um, strings of 1 characters each. So as you kind of notice the space. Anyway, so but this last line actually gave me trouble, and so let me do this again. I'm going to run it again. I hope you saw this and maybe had a little time to think about this. And what does it mean? It actually says here. Well, what am I trying to do here? I'm trying to modify the string at index 1, which is the letter H. I'm trying to change the H to N. And then it says here, string object does not support item assignment. So I'm trying to assign something to an item, but it doesn't allow me to do that. Well, what this turns out is that the Python string is immutable, meaning that it cannot be changed. This is as opposed to the list, Python list, which is mutable, right? Python string is immutable. Then you kind of think, wait, didn't we do something like this before? Let's say, if we cannot do this, but what about this, right? I can change s to long, and then you can print s. Well, you can print s here, right? S was short, and then we change it to long. So did we not change s? How is it immutable? Well, it is still immutable. What actually happened here is that we did not change the original s. We just give s a new string. So long is a new string. It's not the same string as short. So this is just this is getting a new value. Okay, that's what that is. Now this might be a little confusing at this point, and if that's how you're feeling, it's okay. And this will hopefully make sense when again when we talk about the object-oriented part of Python. Okay, but just remember what we just did not change the did not change S. S just points to a different string. Okay, so in that case, how do we actually do this thing that we want to do? But remember, we cannot really do this, right? This will give us an exception. But what if we really want to change the H to an N? Well, hint, hint, we just talked about how we change short to long. Well, we gave it a new string, so we can actually construct a new string. This new string, we keep the original string's first character, and that's 0. We put an N in the place of H, and then we get the rest of the string. And then with this new string, we assign it back to the original variable. Okay, and now we have successfully, quote unquote, change the string to a new string. Okay, so I want to emphasize it's quote unquote we changed the string, but we did not really change the string that was short. We constructed a new string that is snort. Okay,